Thank you so much, chairpersons, and kindly bear with me for the next 15 minutes. I'm very sorry for the sore throat. So, at the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Bansi Sabu sir for this wonderful conference and talk. And my interest in obesity, my mentor is sitting here, Dr. B.M. Makkar sir. Sir, actually, I got more interested in obesity after meeting him. And this particular topic is very close to my heart also. Exercise prescription is in obesity, because when we come to think of it, we always have a diet prescription with us. We have everything, but what we fail to do is give an exercise prescription to the patients. So what happens is, not every patient is the same, not every person is fit. So there are people who are living with obesity, they have so many challenges in life, and asking them to, so what happens, a patient comes to us with obesity and we tell him, exercise किया करो, कम से कम walk ही कर लिया करो, थोड़ा तो चल लिया करो. But we fail to understand that he has so many comorbidities, mobility, that we fail to connect with those problems with the patient. So I'll just, because it's in the workshop, so I will just quickly go through the slides and we'll come to the exercise prescription, which I feel is really important. So physical activity is any movement above rest, and exercise is a structured movement as it is given by the AD and the American College of Sports Medicine. So both, they say that frequency of exercise and its intensity is very important, not only in patients with obesity but also in patients who are living with diabetes. And aerobic exercise is one of the important component of physical activity, and it is usually determined by the percentage of maximal heart rate and the maximal oxygen consumption. We have one more term, that is the rating of perceived exertion, which is the practical tool to estimate the amount of exercise intensity, and we can know about the heart rate if we are not wearing a digital watch. So how does physical activity improve overall health? So one is the adiposopathy, how it improves the fat, and other non-adipose parameters. So as we all know, if you do exercise, it helps in your weight maintenance, weight loss, improves the body composition, and improves the insulin sensitivity as well. So the non-adipose parameters. So obviously we all know that when we exercise, at least when I am concerned, I really feel happy on the days when I'm able to do the morning routine exercise, be it a walk or gym or yoga or my Zumba session. So I feel incredibly happy the entire day. But when we miss those exercise, so the day is not the same. So again, it improves your metabolic health, musculoskeletal health, cardiovascular, pulmonary, etc., so on and so forth. So every parameter of the body is improved if you are exercising. So let's talk about exercise prescription. So from here, I think these are the few basic lessons which we can see. Once a patient comes to you who is obese, or a patient who is overweight, or a patient who is living with diabetes, the important thing is to take a physical activity history. This is really important. One, so if we should start from the success or failure of the previous physical activity or the exercise efforts the patient has been doing, which should be very important. This is the most important way to feel a connection between the patient and yourself, that what were you doing previously. If the patient is no longer in a physical activity or a routine physical activity, then when was it changed, what caused the change, and why did it change? So why did the patient stop exercising, and what were the barriers which were there? And then we need to see the history about the current physical activity of the patient, the frequency, the intensity, type of duration, type, and the enjoyment. So basically this is the physical activity history we should all take once the patient is at our clinic. I think we can make a prescription, and the stalwarts of obesity and the IRO are sitting here, Dr. Narwari and Dr. Makkar, and that's my humble request that we should at a national level make a prescription like we do a diet prescription, or a format which we can take a history in a proper format with these patients. Then you should take the history of the current fitness of that patient, the endurance capacity, the mobility is very important, and the equipments which we would need so that patient can be engaged in a good physical activity. So when I see patients in clinic, my first question, after all this, my first question is, like, if a housewife is there and I tell her, "Aap walk karne jao subah," how will she go? She has to make the tiffin, she has to go to work. Not in the housewife, in the person who's working in a bank or maybe a school or a teacher, they leave the house at 7 a.m. They come back at 5. So when is the time for them to exercise? It's so easy for us to say कि आप कोई exercise क्यों नहीं करते, but there are limitations for every patient. So we should all make time and effort to know about the compliance of the gym, workplace, exercise facilities which are available in their vicinity. And again, the physical, social, and the financial barriers. Then comes here the next, after the physical history, the next is the physical exam. So when the patient comes to you, we all must be doing it. We should be taking height, weight, BMI, waist circumference. We are talking about it. The blood pressure, the pulse, maybe the neck circumference, and a detailed comprehensive examination of the heart, the cardiovascular and the pulmonary functions. Just the physical examination, not in detail. We'll discuss who need to be tested in detail, right? And then we need to make a medical questionnaire, or we need to evaluate a patient medically before we start the patient on any new exercise program. So that includes one, you have to assess the current physical activity. The next is assess the readiness of the patient. Like Dr. Makkar said, there are so many patients who say कि हम exercise नहीं करना चाहते हैं, please Mounjaro दे दो, या whatever drug we want to give, please give us the drug. We don't want to do any kind of physical activity. I have so many relatives, so many friends who say that giving drugs would help us. We do not want to exercise at all, right? And then we have to agree with the patient upon a goal. So either we can take a written consent, but if that is too much, we can just explain to the patient that we need to exercise this much, or we need to come to a at least commitment within the two of us. Then is the assess the mobility, fitness, and potential equipments. Then potential adjustment of the medication. This is also very important. Most of the patients would be on various drugs for hypertension and diabetes. So before the start of the physical activity and during the physical activity, we need to adjust the dose also, and obviously the optimal default plan. If the patient is not working on plan A, we should have a plan B, that if the person is not exercising this much, then we need to have a plan B or a backup plan. Then comes the assessment of the mobility. So patients who are unable to walk, who are morbidly obese or overweight, then they need to be started on a seated program, which includes your arm exercises, swimming or the aquatic exercises, resistance exercises with your leg raises, or maybe with the TheraBand which is available, and recommended physical and mental rehabilitation, and set physical activity goals for these patients, and maybe who require special equipments for it. Patients who have limited mobility or able to walk, then walking is again a very good exercise. Swimming can be there. Resistance exercise is very important, and balance exercise like walking in a straight line or sitting up and sitting down on a chair. And then obviously patients who are there who have no substantial limitations to mobility, then we can prescribe them exercises. So what does a prescription consist of? So we have been continuously hearing about this FIT-E. So it is the frequency, intensity, time spent in the exercise, type, and the enjoyment level. The other one is the VP, again it is added, that is the volume or the total energy expenditure of the exercise and progression of the exercise. So if I am walking, when I talk about myself, if I am walking for maybe an hour with the, like if I do 6 kilometers in an hour, I spend roughly around 400 calories of energy. So that is how we can calculate by using what Dr. Makkar said, with the help of AI tools or maybe the smart watches which is there. So this is the framework for an aerobic exercise program for patients who are overweight or obese. Frequency, we should calculate to more than 5 days a week. Please motivate your patients to be at least doing 5 days per week of moderate intensity exercise. So this is the frequency, more than 5 days in a week. Then comes your intensity. So intensity is moderate to vigorous intensity aerobic exercise should be encouraged. Some patients who are extremely overweight or maybe who have a BMI more than 35, they would be asked to do, so some people there who are in a corporate world, they said we only have 20 minutes. So encourage them to do high intensity exercise, but avoid in patients who have BMI more than 35 for the initial few weeks till the time they get accustomed to the exercise. And then if you have to choose a vigorous intensity activity in the program, it should be, again, as I said, should be at an interval of maybe 4 to 12 weeks till the body is accustomed. Otherwise, they'll start complaining of sore muscles. So then comes the time. So frequency, intensity, and time. Encourage everyone to do at least 45 to 60 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity. Patients who want to lose weight, so this is the exercise at least that the patient would not gain weight. For losing weight, it has to be at least 60 to 90 minutes, around 300 minutes per week of moderate intensity exercise in patients who actively want to lose weight. Sedentary individual, again, should target their physical activity starting from 10 to 20 minutes per day for the initial first few weeks, and then maybe they can increase the activity time. Then is the type of exercise. So again, as I said, walking is the best, cheapest, and the most well taken form of exercise. It can be and it can be done by everyone. Patients who have limited mobility also can engage in walking programs. Weight bearing activity should be avoided for the initial few weeks in patients who have a BMI of more than 35, and it can be started gradually. Then what are the types of exercise which are available? One is your aerobic, resistance, high intensity, and breaks in the sedentary behavior. So I'll not go into the details. So aerobic exercise, like I said, walking, jogging, swimming, these are the aerobic exercise, and it involves a larger group of muscles, so maybe it has a more calorie expenditure. Then is your resistance training, one of my favorites, and I think everybody should be encouraged to use dumbbells which are under supervision or guidance. So what we do is, if we see YouTube and do it, we are at the side of, injuring ourselves. So make sure that the program is supervised when you advise a patient of for doing resistance exercise. So moderate intensity exercise is, again, when we start in a patient, what I do is start with 2 kgs of dumbbell, do more repetition with lighter weights rather than doing less repetitions with higher weight. So we can go from moderate to vigorous intensity exercise. So these are the few exercises like squats or with using TheraBands. Then is your high intensity training. I'll give you some example. So HIIT includes your, so this example is that the person is running for 20 seconds at a place, then 10-second rest, and then you have a 20-second where the patient can do jumping jack, and then 10-second wait, and then 20 seconds of maybe jumping squats or some form of exercise or burpees, and then 10-second rest, and then 20 seconds of push-up. So this is a circuit or a high intensity interval training which you can make the person follow, and it is very easy to do, does not require equipment, can be done at house, very easy to follow, and the chances of injury are not all that high in these patients. And then in diabetic patients, so breaking up sedentary physical activity like just raising your calf when you're sitting all day, especially for the bankers or maybe the teachers when they are sitting, just raising your calf or doing half squats can break the sedentary behavior and improve the glycemic control. And especially in diabetic patients, if you have this exercise desert, I mean small kind of exercise where you walk for 10 minutes after exercise, or if you have a treadmill at your workplace, most of the institutes now have a smaller gym at their institute, so making walking maybe 5 minutes on an incline would break the sedentary behavior. And this is the exercise deserts, which I call exercise deserts, right after the meal, and it can improve the glycemic control. So again, in India, we have the wonderful yoga practices which is there. So yoga, swimming, and again, aquatic exercises are there which decrease the HbA1c and have a benefit in sugar control as well. So how do you track progress? I think Dr. Makkar had spoken enough about it. So I feel that if a person, like if my watch shows that I have done only 8,000 steps in a day, I am motivated in the night to again make sure that I am doing those 2,000 steps more. So that makes you a little bit more happier. So tracking your logs, dynamic training, and resistance training metrics, these are the few apps which are available. I use Strava. It's a very good app. So you can use that also. Special consideration, I'll take one more minute. So in a patient who is having angina, or maybe he's a cardiovascular disease patient, we have patients who are obese and we have patients who are diabetics. So in stable COPD, again, cardiac rehabilitation is strongly recommended to reduce the mortality. So a patient who has exercise-induced angina, make sure that they are getting only 70 to 85% of their heart rate for the angina threshold. Nitroglycerin can be used to permit a little bit of more work. Patients who are post-angioplasty start exercise only after 7 to 14 days. Can I take 30 seconds more? After that, claudication, patients who have peripheral arterial disease, walking is literally a pain for them, so make sure that they start slowly. They do it 3 times in a week, and then they increase the time and intensity. Patients with heart failure, definitely ask them to exercise depending on their symptoms. Contraindications to exercise in patients of heart disease is your acute MI, unstable angina, and grade 4 NYHA class of heart failure. Specifically, patients with osteoarthritis, please make sure that they start with a low frequency, start only 2 or 3 days in a week, and target about 40 to 80% of VO2. These are the patients who have so much of pain and they'll never come back to you because the arthritis pain is there. So make sure that they are using other forms of exercise like seated exercises or maybe weight training when they are sitting, right? And resistance training is important in these patients to build up the muscle mass. So again, the take-home message is the same, and thank you so much for your patient listening.